Hello students, this is Mrs. Bettis and I am coming to you now with some notes for our new unit, our new section on polynomials. What you have on your notes that you were given and what you are looking at on the screen are the same, so you can follow along on your notes as I talk you through what you are seeing. First of all, here's a definition of a polynomial. It says a polynomial comes from the prefix poly, that means many. And if you look at here in this box, what you'll see is a polynomial with three terms. Terms are separated with addition and subtraction. Okay, there are different ways that we can make up a polynomial. We can make up a polynomial with what we call constants, and those are just single numbers like 3 or -20 or even a half. Polynomials are also made up with variables, x, y, a, b, c, any of those. And those variables can have exponents. Like they can have a 2 for squared, they can have a 3 on them, any of those. Okay, but they cannot have any fraction exponents like we've used in our last section. So here's that definition. Polynomials can be made up of constants, variables, exponents, but you cannot divide by a variable. Here are some samples of polynomials here. Here's one with a fraction as a coefficient. Here's one with a negative in front. Here's one with decimals in the front. These are all okay as polynomials. Even a single number by itself can be a polynomial. The next thing I want to show you is here are some examples of polynomials, and here are some non-examples of polynomials. The first one is not a polynomial because it has a negative exponent. And the second one is not a polynomial because it has division of variables. So just make sure you understand what's a polynomial and what's not. Now, if you jump over to the left side, here we have monomial, binomial, and trinomial. And those mean kind of what you're thinking that they mean. A monomial is a polynomial with one term. A binomial is a polynomial with two terms, and a trinomial is a polynomial with three terms. And again, those terms are separated by addition and subtraction. Here is just a little illustration to help you remember what those names mean. The last thing we want to talk about on this slide are the terms standard form and degree. Standard form and degree. Standard form is a way of writing your polynomial in terms of its degree. So let me define what degree is. The degree of a polynomial with only one variable is the largest exponent of that variable. Again, you are looking for the largest exponent that shows up in that entire polynomial. So if I'm looking at this example, it says 4x to the third minus x plus 3. Since 3 is the largest exponent that we have, this will be a third degree polynomial. Here's another example. I have 4x to the third plus 2x squared minus 7. 3, again, is the largest exponent that we have in this polynomial. Lastly, if you want to write your polynomial in what we call standard form, that means that you will arrange your terms from the highest degree down to the lowest degree. So here we have x to the sixth first, 4x to the third comes next, and 3x squared, lastly, 7. The degree of the first term is a 6, the degree of the second term is a 3, the degree of the next term is a 2, and the last term has no variable, so it has a degree of 0. What if your polynomial has more than one variable? How do you do the degree then? In order to find the degree of a term with more than one variable, all you have to do is add up the exponents. So for this first term, 4xy to the second power, the y has a power of 2, the x has a power of 1, so when you add those together, you get a degree of 3. The second term only has one variable. That exponent is a 1, so this term has a degree of 1. And the last term has no variable, so it has a degree of 0. Find the degree by adding the exponents of each variable in it. So here's an example. What is the degree of this polynomial? Well, in the bubbles here, I have shown you what the degree of each term is. The first term has a degree of 3. The second term has a degree of 1. The next term has a degree of 3. And the last term has a degree of 0. So which one is the largest? 3. This polynomial is of the third degree. The very last thing we want to talk about today is how do you name polynomials based on their degree? If you have a 0 degree polynomial, which means it has no variable, you will call that a constant. A variable with a 0 degree is a constant because it doesn't show up. What we learned in our last unit was that any variable to the 0 power was 1. So the variable doesn't show up. That makes that a constant. If you have a degree of 1, that was what we call linear. Here's an example, x plus 3. That has a degree of 1, so that's linear. If it has a degree of 2, we call that quadratic. Here is x squared minus x plus 2. Here you have the 2 as the highest degree. We call that quadratic. Cubic is what you get for a degree of 3. Quartic is what you get for a degree of 4. And quintic is what you get for a degree of 5. If you need assistance, please Google polynomials. There's an awesome tutorial at the Math is Fun website, or you may look in your textbook for additional assistance. Thank you so much for listening.